Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at probably two videos for today's short lesson over the quadratic formula. We established in the completing the square lesson what the quadratic formula is. The quadratic formula is a way for us to skip directly to a computational method that will allow us to find both solutions of any quadratic. So no matter what quadratic we're dealing with, if ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then x is always equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a every single time. So, first thing we need to discuss is the value underneath the square root, b squared minus 4ac. This value has a name and an important application in algebra. This value is known as the discriminant. And the reason that it is called the discriminant is because it allows us to tell how many and what type of roots, solutions, zeros, x-intercepts, whichever word you're using, that particular quadratic equation has. Okay? So the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, tells us the number of roots and the type of roots. Remember that roots is another word for solutions, zeros, x-intercepts. Okay? Remember that we said when we were solving by graphing that a quadratic equation could have two real solutions. It could have one real solution, known as a double solution, or it could have two what are known as complex solutions, which I'm not sure we're going to get real deep into complex solutions because, again, what we're doing here is finishing Algebra 1, and we don't spend a lot of time on complex numbers in Algebra 1. So the way this works is we find that value, b squared minus 4ac, and the value of the discriminant tells us what number and what type of roots we have. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, in other words, if it is a positive number, then our quadratic has two real solutions. If b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, or, neutral, if it's equal to 0, then we have one real solution that occurs twice, a double root. Okay? And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, i.e. a negative number, then having a negative number underneath the square root is a very bad thing. That means we have no real solutions, which would mean that we have two complex solutions. And we're not really going to get into that very deeply, other than to state that we have two complex solutions. So, first part of this lesson is going to cover doing that. Okay, the way we're going to do the quadratic formula is we are always going to find the discriminant first, because again, that tells us information about the quadratic. We will then substitute a, b, and the discriminant into the quadratic formula and simplify. Okay? There should be two answers if the discriminant is not equal to 0. So first problem you're going to have to do, and the first problem we're going to look at, is just finding the value of the discriminant and then describing what number and type of roots we have. So that's this simple. We say, okay, a, b, and c, just like we did for graphing. Now please note that it does have to equal 0, so it has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If it isn't, you have to put it into that form before you start. Then we find the value of b squared minus 4ac. That would be 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9, or 36 minus 36. So the discriminant b squared minus 4ac is 0. If the discriminant is 0, we saw on the previous screen that if the discriminant is neutral, if it is 0, we have one real double solution. So here we would say this quadratic has one real solution. Again, in Algebra 2, we know that that is called a double root. Okay? But we're interested in stating that the discriminant is 0, which means we have one real solution. Again, on B, it is already in the correct format. So we say A is 2, B is -5, C is -14. B squared minus 4AC would be -5 squared. Please make sure when you put that in your calculator that it is in parentheses. Minus 4 times 2 times -14. That would be 25 plus, oh man, that's a tough one. 4 times 2 times -4 times 2 times -14 is 112. 112 plus 25 would be 137. And again, we don't even really care about the value. What we really care about is the fact that that value is positive. Okay? What we really care about is that that value is positive. Okay? The discriminant is positive, which means we have two real solutions. Next screen has 4 more examples of this, so we're going to go a little bit faster through those. Okay, so once again, it has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, which it is. It equals 0, that's the important part. So we say a is 3, b is 8, c is -16. We find the value of b squared minus 4ac. That would be 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times -16. 8 squared is 64 plus, and then we do -4 times 3 times -16. And I know that's going to be a plus because there are a total of 2 negatives in that problem. That would be -4 times 3 times -16 would be 192. 192 plus 64 gives us a discriminant value, b squared minus 4ac, of 256. Once again, all we really care about is that that value is positive, which means we have two real solutions. So that's how this process works. We work our way through to the value of the discriminant. We look to see whether that is positive, negative, or 0, and that tells us the number and type of solutions. So a little bit faster now. A is 1, B is -6, C is 10. Again, we're looking for equals 0. It's in the correct form. B squared minus 4ac is -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10. That is 36 minus 40. So the value of the discriminant is -4. Because that is negative, we cannot take the square root of that value, which means we have two complex solutions. And again, you will go much deeper into what that means in your Algebra 2 course next year. Letter E is in the correct format. A is 2, B is 5, C is 4. B squared minus 4ac is 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. That is 25 minus 32. So the discriminant is -7. Once again, because that value is negative, that means that this particular quadratic has two complex solutions. And we will briefly talk about how to deal with that in the case that we actually run into it while we're solving. F is in the correct format. A is -1, B is -5, C is -2. B squared minus 4ac would be -5 squared minus 4 times -1 times -2. That is 25 minus 25, not 28, 25 minus 8. So b squared minus 4ac is 17. Again, all we really care about is the sign. That value is positive, which means this particular has two real solutions. Our next video will cover how to use the quadratic formula to fully solve a quadratic. Thank you for your time.